Wi-Fi signal, but we just saw that information can go instantaneously regardless of distance. Angels being invisible. There's something, we'll watch a video here in a second, called dark matter. Most of the universe we live in, that we observe, the stuff here in this room, the stars that we see, the planets that are circling around them, is like 5% of what makes up the universe. The rest of it is stuff we can't actually even see or interact with. There's a lot of room for angels to walk around among us. There's a lot of room for a heaven to exist here in our midst that we can't actually interact with yet. There's a lot of mathematical ability for that to actually exist. So I want to show one more video and we'll do some questions. Yeah, so let's do one more here. I mentioned, actually do this and then I'm going to do something here in a second.
The ancient Greeks had a great idea. The universe is simple. In their minds, all you needed to make it were 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water. As theories go, it's a beautiful one. It has simplicity and elegance. It says that by combining the 4 basic elements in different ways, you can produce all the wonderful diversity of the universe. Earth and fire, for example, give you things that are dry. Air and water, things that are wet. But as theories go, it had a problem. It didn't predict anything that could be measured. And measurement is the basis of experimental science. Worse still, the theory was wrong. But the Greeks were great scientists of the mind, and in the 5th century BC, Leucippus of Miletus came up with one of the most enduring scientific ideas ever. Everything we see is made up of tiny, indivisible bits of stuff called atoms. This theory is simple and elegant, and it has the advantage over the earth, air, fire, and water theory of being right. Centuries of scientific thought and experimentation have established that the real elements, things like hydrogen, carbon, and iron, can be broken down into atoms. In Leucippus's theory, the atom is the smallest indivisible bit of stuff that's still recognizable as hydrogen, carbon, or iron. The only thing wrong with Leucippus's idea is that atoms are, in fact, divisible. Furthermore, his atoms idea turns out to explain just a small part of what the universe is made of. What appears to be the ordinary stuff of the universe is in fact quite rare. Leucippus's atoms, and the things they're made of, actually make up only about 5% of what we know to be there. Physicists know the rest of the universe, 95% of it, as the dark universe, made of dark matter and dark energy. How do we know this? Well, we know because we look at things, and we see them. That might seem rather simplistic, but it's actually quite profound. All the stuff that's made of atoms is visible. Light bounces off it, and we can see it. When we look out into space, we see stars and galaxies. Some of them, like the one we live in, with beautiful spiral shapes spinning gracefully through space. When scientists first measured the motion of groups of galaxies in the 1930s, and weighed the amount of matter they contained, they were in for a surprise. They found that there's not enough visible stuff in those groups to hold them together. Later measurements of individual galaxies confirmed this puzzling result. There's simply not enough visible stuff in galaxies to provide enough gravity to hold them together. From what we can see, they ought to fly apart, but they don't. So there must be stuff there that we can't see. We call that stuff dark matter. The best evidence for dark matter today comes from measurements of something called the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang. But that's another story. All of the evidence we have says that dark matter is there and accounts for much of the stuff in those beautiful spiral galaxies that fill the heavens. So where does that leave us? We've long known that the heavens do not revolve around us, and that we're residents of a fairly ordinary planet orbiting a fairly ordinary star in a spiral arm of a fairly ordinary galaxy. The discovery of dark matter took us one step further away from the centre of things. It told us that the stuff we're made of is only a small fraction of what makes up the universe. But there was more to come. Early this century, scientists studying the outer reaches of the universe confirmed that not only is everything moving apart from everything else, as you'd expect in a universe that began in a hot, dense Big Bang, but that the universe's expansion also seems to be accelerating. What's that about? Either there's some kind of energy pushing this acceleration, just like you provide energy to accelerate a car, or gravity does not behave exactly as we think. Most scientists think it's the former, that there's some kind of energy driving the acceleration, and they've called it dark energy. Today's best measurements allow us to work out just how much of the universe is dark. It looks as if dark energy makes up about 68% of the universe, and dark matter about 27%, leaving just 5% for us and everything else we can actually see. So what's the dark stuff made of? We don't know, but there's one theory called supersymmetry that could explain some of it. Supersymmetry, or SUSY for short, predicts a whole range of new particles, some of which could make up the dark matter. If we found evidence for SUSY, we could go from understanding 5% of our universe, the things we can actually see, to around a third. Not bad for a day's work. Dark energy will probably be harder to understand, but there are some speculative theories out there that might point the way. Among them are theories that go back to that first great idea of the ancient Greeks. The idea that we began with several minutes ago. The idea that the universe must be simple. These theories predict that there is just a single element from which all the universe's wonderful diversity stems. A vibrating string. The idea is that all the particles we know today are just different harmonics on the string. Unfortunately, string theories today are as yet untestable. But with so much of the universe waiting to be explored, the stakes are high. Does all this make you feel small? It shouldn't. Instead, you should marvel in the fact that, as far as we know, you are a member of the only species in the universe able even to begin to grasp its wonders, and you're living at the right time to see our understanding explode.
My favorite part about that video is that guy's accent. I just want to go to sleep with it at night. I want him to read my news in the morning. So what did you guys think? Any reflections on that? Anything you learned? There's a lot in this stinking, think about how big this world is. You could spend a lifetime exploring this world and never be done. And there's like hundreds of thousands of worlds like this, and that's just 5% of what's out there. And there's all this other stuff. So, we talk about, heavens and all these other things. There's so much room for a really, really massive God in a really massive thing. So, but you notice that at the end, he started talking about string particles, string theory. So one thing you'll hear is they'll talk about like a string particle for each dimension. And what they do, the string particles, they wrap up in a loop. And they talk about how the current theory is that all this stuff that makes us, all the particles that make the whole physical world, that they're generated from the harmonics of a string. So now we come back. We come back to that quote that I originally put up there. Can you put that quote up there, Dan? The first one, the word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and everything was created through him. And we think about Aslan roaring the universe into existence. And now we hear there might be things that are like strings, and when you pluck them, maybe that's Jocelyn. Maybe that's Greg. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Maybe that's the state of Arizona. That creation can come from the plucking of a string that the very harmonics of it create who we are. And to have a God that loves me and loves music and he loves math and he loves creation. I mean, that's a story I am super happy to be invited into, and one that I really not only like exploring, I get excited about it, but I could explore that forever, right?
All right, so I want to say so many things. Okay,
Say so many things.
So many things. Okay, so there's a way that you can get your own personal song. Like they take your DNA and they unravel it and they like see which pitches are in your DNA, and there are songs that they've created out of people's DNAs. It's really cool. Also, each part of your body is a different wavelength, which is a string vibrating or whatever. Frequency. And so there's been healings that, like, if you have a specific part of your body that is having trouble, like people will introduce a wavelength to correct it. So if it's like or whatever it is, what part of your body, like there's a, like if my sphincter was having problems, then theoretically, like if you introduce the correct wavelength of my sphincter, then it would correct itself because it hears what it's supposed to sound, what it's supposed to vibrate at, and it will correct its vibrations and work the way it should.
And you know, and you could hear something and go, oh, how's that possibly work? I mean, it's all math. It's all the rules of the universe. And he set them up, and I don't think God violates his own rules. I think he goes, oh yeah, I want to send a piece of myself to the beginning of time and to this particular point in time to infiltrate this physical world so I can bring my love into it. And he can decide that at the same time, and it happens. And he's not violating his laws, he's using them. He's saying, I see through 11 dimensions. I operate outside of these, and I use these things, and I play my guitar, and I make a beautiful song. There was one other thing I wanted to share with you guys, and it just escaped me. Anyway, so any other thoughts? We're kind of right up on time. So, was this interesting at all?
Yes.
Yes? Is anybody's brain hurting? Like, I didn't get it, or... So when I did it with this with the kids, I was like, oh, are they going to get it? And I remember it was Abraham that was looking at me, and he was like, you could just see his gears turning, and the smoke was coming out of his ears. And he was like, I'm like, are you getting it? He's like, he said something like, my brain hurts. And I was like, all right, that's what I want. Because our brains can hurt. So, you know, and like really exploring God and his bigness, it's going to smoke the brain sometimes. Anyway. You mentioned something that made me think of this. I was going to do a Minecraft thing with the kids the last week, but I got sick. And something in Minecraft, if you guys ever played Minecraft, it creates these huge, ever-expanding, infinite worlds that you can go explore and build stuff and go on adventures and stuff like that. And the world it's called procedurally generated. It uses mathematics to perpetually build itself. So as you explore the world, it doesn't create an entire infinite world. It would take too much memory on your computer. But as you explore it, it builds the world procedurally. And so that's why it becomes infinite. And there's something for every world that you create in Minecraft called a seed. And a seed is just it's a series of letters and numbers, just a little text string. And it can be any length. And usually it's a randomly generated seed. And what Minecraft uses that seed to deploy into all its mathematical algorithms, and that's what procedurally generates the world. So you can generate a world with a seed with your name. You can have a seed that's Christy. And if you put Christy into Minecraft, it'll generate an infinite world, but always the same exact world for that seed. So if somebody else, if I entered Christy in my Minecraft world, it would generate the same exact world, but infinitely. So, you know, I was going to have all the kids enter their names into the seed and see what world came out of it. Oh, my world's got a village over here, and my world has a whatever. And then I was going to have them put Jesus in, and just see what world generated from Jesus. And when we talk about the lion roaring, and we talk about things being created from the beginning, and we talk about math, we talk about procedurally generating things, you can use some seed as simple as the word, literally and figuratively, to make this world what it is. So anyway, that was it. That's my talk.